Welcome to the Coming Clean podcast series. This is episode 7. My name's Alan Randolph, and I'm your host on this journey. This week's topic is cleaning transparency, the only way forward. This is something that I've thought a lot about in my 30 years, and I'm super excited this week to have as my guest a person who's been in the restaurant and facilities industry for over 25 years. She's owned and operated a call center for restaurants and combined her company with Service Channel in the early 2000s. Chipotle was one of her big customers. They asked her to join their team as National Facilities Manager in 2005. Over 11 years while she was there, she moved up, overseeing the development of all facility functions, including real estate, design, construction, procurement, sustainability. She retired in 2016 after helping them establish and implement many new procedures after the food safety crisis of 2015. So she's very familiar with the need for transparency and validation of protocols and how we need to make employees and guests feel safe. Today, she's the chief strategist for EquipID, which is a company that was established, a technology company to provide clean transparency by the former founders of Service Channel. Her name is Carolyn Anderson, and I'm so happy to have her. Thanks, Carolyn.
Hey, Rand, thanks.
So, as I've mentioned in prior episodes, cleaning has historically been kind of an invisible service, right? It's done when the buildings are empty oftentimes, or at least the space is unoccupied for convenience. But with the heightened awareness of the pandemic, cleaning and its impact on public health has never had greater visibility. And so with that, we need increased transparency in the process. And I believe that change has to be led by technology. So I want to just kind of take our listeners and viewers through kind of this process from 60,000 feet down.
Yep.
So we'll start there. So what are the key factors from like a high level, the executive level, that would need to be visible to have cleaning and disinfection transparency in the marketplace?
Well, Alan, you hit the nail on the head. Previously, cleaning was more from an aesthetic perspective as opposed to health and safety. This COVID pandemic has really shifted that. And not just making sure that processes are tightened up at the top level, the procurement departments, the safety and operations teams, things like that, but now executing at the restaurant or retail level. We are now expecting the same people that previously may have rolled a burrito or, operated a POS to take different measures to disinfect and validate that they've actually disinfected.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know at EquipID, you guys are using the NFC technology, near field communication, as kind of the portal to move information around to create this transparency. Can you explain just a little bit about what NFC technology is and why it's ideally suited for this application?
Sure. So basically, as you said, the near field communication is the basis of an NFC tag. Essentially, each tag has its own website. And the tag, and unlike a QR code that can bring up information, the tag is actually activated to go out to the cloud and pull that information back once it's powered by a smartphone, such as an iPhone or an Android. What you're also able to do is basically what we call surface content on those tags that is specific to the user tapping the tag. So if you had a staff associate that needed to complete certain tasks within certain zones, once that associate taps the tag, they get digital task list of everything they need to do along with a time date stamp. And so it essentially kind of creates a breadcrumb trail of all the activities that they needed to perform. In conjunction with that, the tags are agnostic to the roles that are set up. So multiple roles can use a single tag. So a janitor that comes in and performs, let's say, an electrostatic spraying in the same zones can use the same tag, but he's got a different user role. So you get the time date stamp of all the activities that have been performed. And, if you think about it from a compliance perspective, at the end of the breadcrumb trail, if you will, you've got a digital document that now shows proof of presence at those zones or at those individual pieces of equipment or high touch areas.
Yeah, that's fantastic. In a prior conversation that you and I had, we talked about we need to know there's a person there. We need to know they have some skills.
That's right.
We need to know they followed the process, right? We need
Yep.
to know that all of the things they needed were available to them, that the supply channel was available, their equipment is in working order. And we put all that together, then we have a high level of confidence that they executed on our process, right? So
Absolutely.
that's at the macro level, you could see all of that and manage to defects, right? So if we see, hey, the location in Atlanta, in Buckhead has not been cleaned, or we haven't registered any activity in 2 days, that could
Yep.
send an alarm to corporate and we can have an intervention.
Correct.
And also, if I understand correctly, if you wanted to make a global change at the corporate level, you could then do that, and all the people that had that access to that change would immediately in real time see that. Is that
Correct.
kind of getting that right?
Nope, you absolutely nailed it. We have the ability, obviously, with the tags that are associated with a specific customer, we can surface an immediate bulletin, any change in an SOP, possibly a cleaning chemical that they're using that has a different dwell time. We can upload that information immediately and make it active. So the next time the person taps the tag, they see the bulletin or the alert immediately. Also, from the perspective of just kind of stepping back a little bit, the SOPs based off of the specific customer can be set to generate those alerts if a task hasn't been performed within a certain time frame, or if the task took less time for the associate or the janitor to perform than what the customer says it should take, using subject matter experts to establish that, cleaning a restroom that has 2 toilets and 2 sinks and disinfecting those surfaces may take 25 minutes with a dwell time on a chemical that has a 10-minute dwell time. Then at that point, if he were to move from another site, then we're able to generate an exception from that. And if he couldn't do it for a reason that there was a customer in the restroom or something, he could always enter an exception, and people at the highest level can see that.
Yeah, that's actually kind of that first level of transparency is the corporate managing their expectations down into the organization. So let's jump one layer deeper. So let's now go to the site level, right? So now I'm the site manager. I have access to a lot of data as well about cleaning and disinfection. And why is that so important to cleaning transparency?
Well, as we talked about earlier, from a brand protection perspective, the SOPs are generated at the top level, but they need to be executed at the site level. And so if, a site manager has access knowing that these things are happening, they can make sure that they're doing their part to protect the brand, as well as calling out exceptions before an incident may happen. We do have some clients as well that want to surface that information to their customers as to the last time it was disinfected. That's very important because that site manager is the person totally responsible for that location and the content of the information that's being provided.
Yeah, no, we're starting to build some layers here that are getting, to me, get pretty exciting. So now let's drop one layer below, right? Now we're at the custodian level.
Yep.
Right. So the custodian, we're creating a breadcrumb trail, as you called it, of all their activities, their experience, maybe their training, all kinds of things, their OSHA training, their safety, PPE training, everything. We're aggregating all this data. And so is that unique then to that custodian? Could they take that with them?
Yes, absolutely. So each user essentially gets an e-logbook, if you will, right? You can store the certifications if a customer requires, let's just say a GBAC, Global Biorisk Advisory Council certification for anyone performing those tasks. When the person taps the tag, if he's not certified, it won't let him see the tasks. if it were, just a general ISSA certification, we can store all of that information and make sure that that's all surfaced on that user role. And the activities that they perform basically start creating a log. So if you imagine that you've got a custodian that goes to, let's say 10 restaurants in a market, and they're spending 20 hours each week, that's aggregating their time. And over, if you almost think of like an e-log, like a truck driver or an airplane pilot, I've got 5,000 hours of doing disinfection activities in this environment.
Yeah, and I think that really is what one of my biggest passions is, to elevate the value of cleaning, right?
Absolutely.
The pandemic elevated awareness. Now, as an industry, we need to elevate our execution, and being able to understand and value that experience of technicians, both their skill development and their experience, and not always having this 300% turnover revolving door, and being able to then allow employees to negotiate fairer wages based on experience,
yeah,
is going to play a huge impact on ultimately achieving the mission. You mentioned earlier what I think is the absolute essential core if we're going down to the final level of cleaning transparency, and that's the customer level, right?
yeah.
So if I'm understanding, following along in real time, they could see what has been done, what is scheduled to be done, by whom, what their skills are, all this data, if you wanted to surface it to them. I had mentioned on a previous podcast with Matthew Whalen, it's like, if a fine dining restaurant wants me and my wife and 3 or 4 other couples to come spend a couple hours, drink a couple of bottles of wine, and enjoy a long traditional kind of night out, we're going to need to know the bathroom's clean.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
and I'm not sure that anybody's quite there yet. Sounds like the technology is there. Now we just kind of got to marry that with the will. But not everybody's going to care. But I'm thinking about schools and other places
Yep.
where moms and dads are really going to care about that transparency. I want to know, what was done, by who, when's the next one, and if my child or I don't feel comfortable, is there some way that I can intervene in this process, or
Correct.
provide feedback to the process that says, hey, I was here, I saw your log. It's kind of the old, sheet on the back of the restroom. You walk in and every box is initialed and the place is a dump. I'm like, well, something is broken here, right? So, I think this is a fantastic conversation and start to a dialogue that is really energizing to me, and I hope others find it. So if people want more information about Equip ID and kind of the solutions you're crafting around cleaning transparency, how can they get more information about this, Carolyn?
Well, they can visit our website at equipid.com, or they could reach out to me on LinkedIn. Happy to provide any information relative to what we've got going on in the different verticals that we're currently providing the technology for.
That's awesome. Well, I encourage everybody to reach out and at least do some exploration. This is the future, right? Transparency is going to be required in the future, and you're going to have to get there through technology. The folks, Carolyn and the folks at Equip ID, are ahead of the game. So please reach out for them and at least explore the option. Carolyn, thank you so much for your time today. Good luck on this journey. Hope we talk again soon. And to everyone, thank you for listening. We'll be back next week, and we're out.
Thanks, Alan. Have a good day.
You too. Thanks.